Welcome back to the sequel of our last outing to the Sunshine State Rails. The last time we took this route, we were on our way to Central Florida to chase a southbound CSX test potash train, K870. And as I mentioned, there were a lot of other trains that we caught that night that weren't included in the main cut. So, as their own main cut, here's this video. All of the other CSX trains that we caught that night, while we awaited the train of the night to arrive. Our first stop would be Plant City. We made it to Plant City and saw gates down as the nightly Q442, Tampa to Waycross, Georgia nightly mixed freight was passing through downtown, so we shot northward about a mile and a half to shoot the train in some fairly good lighting from a gas station across the street. Tropicana reefers fresh out of one of my best known towns, this train is unmistakable. We're just north of downtown Plant City and Plant City siding, just off to the side of Paul Buckman Highway. Right across the road from the Quick C gas station, which is providing us with this bit of lighting here. I had seen this spot a number of times at night and saw that there was somewhat good light here, and since 442 beat us to downtown where all of the other lights were, I was able to utilize this spot for once. 442 tonight was not big. His biggest cut of cars was the auto racks on the bottom. Though all empties, they'll come back down here someday with more automobiles. Had picked up speed now and was taking off into the darkness, but we moved back to downtown because via word from friends earlier in the day, CSX train 0704, a local train which runs every Sunday through Thursday night between Tampa and Winston, hauling usually empty and loaded rock hoppers, though can be pulling anything else that Tampa and Winston need moved back and forth, whether that be engines or other rolling stock. Tonight wasn't much different though. We heard that it was 3 light engines headed out east toward Winston to pick up a train, and from personal experience, I've seen that when locals head out to somewhere engines light, they're usually headed to pick up something big. And tonight, that was exactly the case. Pulling back into the platform, we already had a clear on the A-line westbound for 0704 on his return trip. And only about 5 minutes went by before he coasted down the hill. They picked up something big tonight. Destined for Conrad Yelvington off of the Navy Spur in Tampa were somewhere between 90 and 100 loaded rock hoppers headed west on the A-line. What I really liked about this as well is that there was nothing else on the train. It was nothing but rock. And as y'all know, I have a little obsession with rock hoppers. And since I don't see this train, let alone this much rock very often, needless to say, it made me feel pretty good. That felt pretty good. It was just after 7:45 p.m. now, and it was our time to start heading north. Our train of the night, K870, was still quite a bit of a ways out, so we would stop in at the Dade City Depot for a couple hours to see what other trains we could see there before heading north to Lake Panasoffkee to await our train of the night. We would sit at Dade City for about 45 minutes trainless, before a Facebook post and a nearing headlight made the night twice as good. Coming down the hill at Dade City was Q045, nightly container and UPS traffic from Jacksonville's intermodal ramp to Tampa's Uceda yard. Other than the fact that he was a huge train by today's standards, he had an SD70 Mac rebuild leading, and CSX number 5107, the Thomas Rice Special, trailing second. This set of engines been running back and forth on this train for a while now, and I'm happy to say that it stayed on long enough for me to capture it.
Detector, milepost 825.9, speed 50, no defects, repeat, no defects, total axles 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 8, 4. Detector out.
Now, how about that Facebook post I talked about? Well, that Facebook post had told me that about 20 miles north at Bushnell, a W044 had taken the siding at Bushnell to allow Q045 to overtake him. This meant that we had a work train right on Q045's markers, and quite literally it was. Only 5 minutes passed before the work train showed up. Of way equipment headed south to presumably Winston, which makes sense as this is CSX's work season in this part of their system. By this time my friend Danny had showed up. He had just missed 045 but showed up right on time for this one. And that was it for us at Dade. It was time for us to start making our way north to Panasoffkee to get K870. But driving through the woods, we heard 2 GE locomotives rumbling south through the woods. It was too dark to see what the train was, and though it still seemed early for our K870, I wasn't about to risk it. So we booked a hard U-turn and floored it back south to just north of Bushnell and pulled in at the nearest railroad crossing. Turns out it wasn't our train, but rather Q455, nightly mixed freight from Waycross, Georgia to Taft Yard near Orlando, Florida, was just now making his way down through this part of the state. Obviously not a great shot, but judging by the start of this clip, you could probably tell how much time I had to get my camera ready, and adding to the fact that this was just a random crossing in the middle of nothing but woods, we're lucky we're seeing anything at all. Continuing our journey north with a little bit of weight off our chest, we made it to Lake Panasoffkee with plenty of time to spare, though we would sit here for quite some time with no more trains, until a radio call and a headlight got our attention from the north. It was Q441, nightly mixed freight from Waycross, Georgia to Tampa, Florida, and if you recall from the main chasing video of K870, you'll have noted that somewhere along their journey the decision was made to drop 28 of the loaded potash cars and take them down by other means, and that this train, Q441, would have those extra loads in his train. You'll see them at the very front and some in the middle. Also of interest on this train tonight was the second and fourth locomotives, CSX 133, a YN2 painted AC 4400, and 4409, an ex-Conrail GP40-2. last train through Panasoffkee before the arrival of our unit potash train, Q178, nightly intermodal container traffic out of the Winter Haven Intermodal Logistics Center to Jacksonville's intermodal ramp. That would be our last train before K870 would arrive and the chase would begin. I'm not going to explain anything in regards to that train because I've already made a full video about it, and this is under the assumption that most people watching this video have already watched that video. If you have not, please go and watch that one. It's a lot more detailed than this one, and has a lot more action shots, if you will. But since it was part of the night, I'll include the first two engines passing 78th Street close to the end of our chase. Again, if you haven't watched the full video on this train, I really recommend you go do that. Otherwise, that would end our action-packed night out here on the Central Florida rails. Thank y'all again so much for watching. I'll definitely be out here again soon, and until then, this is Kotabeaner, and I'll see y'all next time out there on the Sunshine State Rails.